For the first time in live decoded history, I have someone here who had a dream when being 8 years old and followed through with his dream until now. He is now 60 and a professional baseball coach. Meet Claudio Rolzano. Thank you so much for joining me today.
All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be on.
So with 8 years old, you already wanted to become a baseball player, coach, whatsoever. So how did that dream form, first of all?
Well, my parents were from Italy, so they were just interested in boxing and soccer. That was it. So baseball, nobody cared about baseball in my house. But my uncle used to work at a place called Three River Stadium. That's where the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Pittsburgh Steelers used to play. So he brought me to my first game, August 19th, 1973. And to this day, I still love that building, but I seen that big building, and I said, wow, something was going on. All right. And then we pulled in and we went into his office, and he worked in a place called the Allegheny Club, which was like a country club inside of the stadium. And I saw this beautiful wooden wall, these pictures of athletes that I didn't know who they were. The only athlete who I knew who it was Babe Ruth. That was it. And Roberto Clemente. That was it. Those were the only two athletes that I knew who they were. So this is before the game even started. Something was going on. So then he takes me down to the locker room, and I see these big guys joking and playing around and hollering and saying hello to me, and I had no idea who they were. $8,000-seat arena, stadium empty. And I just loved where I was. I loved the atmosphere. I was just in awe. And that was before the game even started.
Oh, okay.
So, then I watched the game, and I remember going home, and I didn't say a word. I didn't know what was what. I said, I loved where I was, and I hated that it was over. So I came home. Matter of fact, this house that I'm doing this interview with you is the same house I grew up in. I never left. So about 10 feet from here, I came home, and my dad said, "You have a good time?" I said, "I did, but I know what I want to do with the rest of my life." And he said, "What's that?" He said, I want to be in professional baseball. And he very simply said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, then me and your mother will do everything we can to give you every opportunity in the world to make your dreams come true." And my mom said, "Yeah, if that's what you want to do, we're here to support you, as long as you don't get hurt, and all that." And I tell you what, Mo, my parents were unbelievable. There's an old Italian saying, if you ever see a turtle on top of a fence post, you know he didn't get there alone. And whatever I've been able to accomplish, everything you see back here, or anything, be it shows or books, or the life I have today, guaranteed, and I get emotional talking about it to this day, it would never have happened without the love and support of my parents. So my mom passed October 8th, 1988, and on my dad's birthday, and my dad passed in February 19th, 2004. But I think of them all the time. I try to honor them in so many ways. We named my daughter after my mom, Ida. We have a tournament named after my parents. I mention my parents after every show, but that's how it all started.
So they're just that big of apart. And actually, I can see the wall behind you. There are just so many pictures, and I reckon trophies as well and everything. So I think the wall that you came in on this special day after your first baseball game, it looked quite differently, right? But was just a wall, and now you made it the trophy wall.
It was empty.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing.
It was
what
empty.
A beautiful thing.
Yeah. It was definitely empty. I still have the first one that I ever had in 1977. But, those signify a lot of hard work, a lot of prayer, and a lot of support from my parents, like I said, because it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of years. I was 36 years old when I got my first pro job, and I'm sure we'll talk about the other jobs that I had, but I was coaching high
Mm-hmm.
school and college, and it was good, but it wasn't what I wanted, and it was a lot of struggle, a lot of struggle.
So you had, of course, a few obstacles. When you tell someone today, I want to be an Instagram influencer, I think that is pretty much the same stability that it was in the earlier years to have a athlete job. Did you ever have any rejections or anything that you needed to overcome when talking to
Oh,
people?
well, first as a player, I was a very good player, but I had 3 pro tryouts. 2 of them, I
Mm-hmm.
was hurt. But the third one, I was completely healthy, completely fine, and I did awful. I just did awful. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. As supportive as my parents were, I had some other family members that weren't so supportive, that wanted to see
Mm-hmm.
me fail. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, wanted to see me fail. So I wanted to make my parents' dream come true. And I just put so much pressure and I did terrible. So, but then I went into coaching. So I was rejected there. So I went into coaching and, I had a very good career. I was 23 years old, my first head coaching job. And, then I tell you, this ring I have here I won it October 8th, 1990. I was head coach at Penn State Beaver. I was 25 years old. So we were winning the game
Mm-hmm.
handily. And I could see the football stadium and I could see an agricultural building. And I looked over in between and I said, I'm 25. I just won a collegiate championship my first year as a head coach. The professional baseball teams they're going to bust the door down to
Mm-hmm.
hire me. Well, it took 137, at least 137 rejections. At least those are the ones that I would write people, I call, some would respond, some wouldn't
Yeah.
respond. So it took me 11 years to finally make my dream come true. But I tell you what, it was hard because, you know, I was working with my dad. He had a landscape business and, I was coaching, making, okay money, but that wasn't the dream. That wasn't the goal. So it took 11 years before I actually hit my goal and hit my dream. And what happened was, like I said, I was coaching along, going pretty good. I was Division I assistant coach. Then I left that university. Then I disappeared for 2 years. Nobody wanted me. And then in 1999, I got a job at a very small Catholic high school that paid me $800
A
a year,
year.
right? And a year. And I took it and I loved it. I had a great time. I was an assistant coach. I loved it. So I came from Division I, pretty good drop. Then in 2000, no, in 1999, my wife and I went to a boxing match. So I wanted some reading material on the way there. And I saw a little ad for European professional baseball players. So I said, well, I can speak Italian. I said, maybe I can be some sort of liaison or a scout or something. So I contacted a company called the Global Scouting Bureau and the owner, James Gamble. And I contacted him at least 2 or 3 times a month until finally, January of 2001, he said, how would you like to work for us here with the Global Scouting Bureau? And I tell you what, I jumped through the phone and he hired me as a professional baseball scout. And then the next year I was promoted to general manager. So, and I'm still with that company. So, it has been an amazing run, a lot of obstacles, but, my mom had passed by then. As I said, it was 1988. And I remember, Mo, going to the casket, and my mom and my parents were extremely close, as I said before. So I remember going to the casket and I just held my mom's hand and my dad came over to me and he said, I know what you're thinking. And he knew I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit, go get a job at the airport and
Mm-hmm.
just forget about it. That's what I wanted to do. I just had nothing left in me anymore. And my dad said, you can't quit. He said, your mother fought her battle for you. You promised her you'd continue to try. to make her dream come true. And you're the only thing left to keep her name alive. So I swear to you, I started hearing like the Rocky theme, the music. And I said, okay. I said, Ma, you didn't give up. I'm not going to give up. So, again, it took a long time, but finally in January 2001, things happened for me. So
they should do a movie about you, I pretty much think at the moment. That's the thing. When I'm listening to you, I just can't imagine really Ryan Gosling playing the main character. No, it's a very, very beautiful story. And it's, of course, it is that great because at the end, it all worked out. You waited 11 years for this professional job and then it all worked out. Can you say that to everyone every time, that as long as they keep hardworking or at least trying, that it will work out? Or are there scenarios where it is better to leave it where it is?
No, you know what? If you really want something bad enough, you have to just have the mindset, I'm going to go after this no matter what. There was a lot of people who said it'll never happen. They said, it's a pipe dream, be realistic, time to grow up and be a man. Somebody said to me at the funeral, oh, now it's really time to grow up and be a man, which was, whatever. But, and then all the obstacles, all the naysayers, but I kept fighting. And how? I just kept at it. I mean, there's that's one thing we all have is perseverance in us. Obviously, you have to have some ability. I'm not saying that. You have to have some ability, but you have to keep at it and you have to knock on a lot of doors. And, there was an old sitcom here years ago that the star of the show said to his son, sometimes opportunity doesn't knock. So you have to call him up and invite him over. You have to get your name out there. You have to let people know who you are. And then another thing, there was a very famous comedian, Joan Rivers, and her agent once said, if you want to get struck by lightning, you have to stand in the rain. So I stood in the rain. I just kept at it. So I urge anybody out there, if you have a dream, and I know it's corny and I know you hear it all the time, don't give up. And I get it, but you can't. You really have to keep going at it no matter what anybody says to you. And you're going to have a lot of down times. You're going to be, I had some tough jobs. I had some people who were really people that I worked for who were very hard, made things very hard for me, very hard, for no reason, jealousy, whatever you want to call it. Or some people, some people have high blood pressure. Some people have a bad heart. Some people are just bad. And they just made things hard for me, but I just kept shaking it off. And, I'll tell you one more story. That's a story that, they said there was a farmer whose favorite horse fell in a well and he tried to get him out, couldn't get him out. So he wanted to bury him with honors, with respect. So he kept throwing dirt on the horse, kept throwing dirt on the horse, kept throwing dirt on the horse. Well, every shovel of dirt, the horse would shake it off and the dirt would get underneath him and enabled him to climb up and get out of that well. So all the adversity that I went through, all the rejections, all the people made fun of me, people who laughed at me and people who said I couldn't do it, it hurt, but I used my worst enemy to be my best ally. And I used it to pick me up and to climb out of that well, so to speak, and to make things happen.
For that analogy to be true, you would need someone to try to bury you, at least. So you really need big rejections. And I think the main thing that a lot of people lack, myself included, is sometimes a big goal. You had your parents, and especially after that event, you had one more big reason that some of us, or at least I am for most part, are still searching for. It doesn't mean that my parents are not supporting me, but it's not that I say, okay, with that way I could make them proud, but also maybe with podcasts and everything. So there's always this plan B that I think interferes with having a plan A at the same time. So generally speaking, would you say that your goals brought you the most forward in dark times? And if so, which goals all leaded to the end? So what was the big picture that you always framed in your head, how it would look like as soon as you achieved it?
And that's a great point. And number one, as far as people, I know this one guy. He's a former boxing champion, and he was on my show. And I asked him if he had any negative people in his life or anything like that, or support, not negative, if he had any supportive people in his life. And he said, if I did, I don't know if I would have made it as a champion. I don't know if I'd have handled it. So it's almost like it's good to have some people going against you. But at the end of the day, though, you have to look in the mirror. And yes, I had parents that I wanted to make proud of me. There was also a lot of people that I wanted to shut them up, okay, to be very honest with you. But at the end of the day, it's me and you, that mirror. That's it. You want to succeed. You want to live a happy life. You want to be able to provide for yourself and your family. Because at the end of the day, that's who it is. It's you. So yes, you can use people to motivate you, or there's a song by somebody who's from Pittsburgh. His name is George Benson, and Whitney Houston covered it and made a hit out of it as well, called The Greatest Love of All. And basically, the greatest love of all is within you, and to have pride in yourself and to have ambition. And then when you do achieve what you achieve, you want to have impact on people, which is very important to me. Hopefully somebody who listens to this show can have impact on, because there's nothing special about me other than, I had some talent, but I worked very hard. But the ultimate goal for me was to be in professional baseball. But then once I hit that, then I wanted to do other things. I just didn't want to stay that. And so I wanted to be in professional baseball. I still wanted to coach college baseball, and I wanted to do these shows that I'm doing. I was hosting a TV boxing show, a podcast, co-host of a radio show, all that stuff. And then I do some speaking. I wrote a book. So I want to do all these things. And so I just want to have more goals and more ambitions, and I want to keep living. I want to keep improving. I think the coaching part of it, I think it's, closer to the end, but there's some other things that I want to do. I want to continue to scout, but I want to have impact on people. I want to do more speaking engagements. I want to do more, maybe some consulting. Tomorrow or Wednesday, I'm going to a high school to talk to some kids that maybe don't want to go to college, okay, but you got to do something. So I'm going to kind of tell them, what do you want to do? Well, I want to do this. Well, how can we set up a game plan and go after it? So a guy named Jim Valvano, who was a champion basketball coach, but he's also known for his Jimmy V Cancer Fund, a great speech. You ought to listen, go to search on YouTube, the Jimmy V speech. And it's inspiring, one of the most inspiring speeches you ever want to hear. And he was a dear friend of mine. But Jimmy used to say his favorite word in the English dictionary was the word impact. So many people have had impact in my life, and I'd like to do that. So that's one of my other goals, is to impact more people with my story.
Okay. So there was those many things that you just said, with also it's maybe sometimes good to have people to be not against you, but reject the idea that you stand for, pretty much. And that just opened a bit my eyes. And of course, you just said that you had also multiple goals and everything in that sort. And I always saw that a bit as a disadvantage, but in your case, it was just one part of a bigger picture. And I think if you have many goals, they all need to be connected a little bit together. Doesn't mean they need to be the same or need to be in the same branch, but you just need to see yourself doing both, maybe in the future, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it was hard. There was a lot of times when I remember in 1984, I was about 20 years old, And we were staying at a friend's house because we were going to go golfing the next morning. But long story short, I was very depressed. And he said, good friend of mine, Dave Nitsch, I love Dave. And he said, what's the matter? I said, I don't know if I'm ever going to accomplish my dreams. I'm not getting anywhere. And I was worried because there wasn't a set, it wasn't a path, you know, it could happen, it couldn't happen, and there was a lot of competition as there is with everything.
And uncertainty, yeah.
But I had to fight through it, a lot of uncertainty, exactly. A lot of uncertainty. But there's going to be uncertainty in anything you want to do, whether it's being an attorney, own your own business, having your own show, being a singer. I don't care what it is. It's never going to be easy. Okay. They say, if you want to be nothing, if you want to say nothing, do nothing and be nothing, that's easy. Just don't do anything, So, I wanted to be something. I wanted to, again, make my parents proud, shut some people up. But it was hard. I look back on it sometimes and I say, man, how the hell did I go through all of those things, But something kicks in. But again, if you love something, enough and you care for something enough, you will do everything you can to take care of it or to make it happen. So again, there was nothing, special about me other than, yes, again, I had some talent, but I worked incredibly hard, and all the people who started out pretty much the same time I did, they're pretty much all gone. I'm still here.
That's also nice. So you learned all of those things over the years, had your up and downs, and you bring them all together when coaching or consulting other companies as well in that work. So does this also, you do something on a side note or something you do primarily, just to be?
Well, for me, it was always baseball. That was it. So now when I was a little kid, I did say I wanted to do a boxing TV show. Okay. But I didn't really think about it too much. So it was baseball. So in 2007, I believe it was. And my dad used to always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I still owned the landscaping business. Okay. But Greg Norman, the golfer, who's an incredibly successful businessman, is somebody who I really admire and respect a great deal and has had a ton of impact on me. So he came out with a book and he talked about all the things that he did in his life. He was a golfer. He owned real estate. He was a real estate developer. He was a golf course designer, wine, beef, clothing. I usually wear his clothes pretty much every day. But I said, you know what? I can do that. I can have different things going on, different businesses. Maybe not make $500 million like him, but that's okay. I don't need to make $500 million. But I said, I think I can do that. So I branched off to doing some speaking, again, writing a book. I have 6 shows that I do. I do a lot of baseball training. I do some consulting. I want to do more of that. Somebody asked me to get involved in the golf business. I'm going to do that. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to be speaking at that high school. So I'd like to do more of that because that's a great age to speak to somebody because they're still in development. They still have that dream and goal. So, again, I just like to have, and plus, to be very honest with you, money is very important. Money is very important, so you can take care of your family, so you can have the life that you would like and again, take care of things. So between, wanting to achieve things and providing for my family, I go at it pretty hard. And I'm just grateful for every opportunity that comes my way. And, so I did tell my wife, though, the other day, I said, I think I'm not going to so much slow down, but I might not say yes to everything, But so I've had so many people, like I mentioned, Jim Valvano, Greg Norman, Mario Andretti, Magic Johnson. So many people have had impact in my life that I studied. Joe Namath, the old quarterback, Dan Marino, Vince Ferragamo. I can go on and on. People that have I've looked at their careers and seen what they've done. And I said, maybe I can emulate it and do something along those lines. So I've read their books. Fran Tarkenton, the former Hall of Fame quarterback. So I read their books. I listen to their interviews constantly and see what they have done and try to integrate that into my business life. And, so far so good. And, there's still things I want to accomplish. And that's living. I'm never going to put my feet up on the desk and my hands behind my head and say I got it made, because you never know. You never know. So I'm going to keep at it. And I always joke with my wife. I always say, there's some other good-looking Italian guy who wants to take my spot. I'm not going to let him take it. So,
Okay, so thank you first of all for your time, and of course you wrote a book in 2020. It came out. It was Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up. I think people can read a lot about your work in there as well, and how to use it maybe as well in their everyday life, if I understood correctly.
Yes, about my book. I just felt that the leadership skills that I had used or had been using could work on others. I don't think you lead from the heart up, not the neck up. What that came from is my mom used to say, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up. In other words, mean what you say, care about what you say. And then Dick Vermeil, he's a National Football League Super Bowl winning coach, used to say, your team, your people won't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted my players to know how much I cared, and I wanted to be passionate for them and with them, and it's worked. Not all the time. There's some players once in a while who want to test you, and that's fine. Then if they test me, they're going to lose that test. So it isn't like I'm just nice and everything. No, I mean, I'm wonderful, but at the same time, I'm not going to take anybody's garbage. That's for sure. But what I told you, I was in the hospital last week. I had so many of my former players send me little notes, and it meant the world to me. So I don't think you have to be an idiot to be a leader. You can show compassion, you can show love. And I have a lot of stories in my book to show that. And how I was treated, both good and bad, maybe some mistakes I made. It's a very good book. I'm very proud of it. And I think it would definitely help, as it states in the book, how to lead from the heart up, not the neck, how to create a positive winning culture on the field and in the office. So it helps anyone in the leadership capacity.
And where can people get to know you a bit better if they want to, or get your show and whatsoever? Is there maybe a website everybody can go to?
Yes. My website is www. It's my first and last name, ClaudioReilsono.com. Or you can look me up and my website will follow.
Thank you so much for your time. It was really eye-opening in many regards, and all the best for you and your sickness as well for the time being and the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I wish you all the best. You're a good guy and a smart guy, and I can tell you're going to be very successful. So you keep at it. I appreciate it.
I will do. I will try, even if it takes 11 years. Thank you.
It took longer, but that's okay.